Okay, welcome everybody. I am so happy to have you here. If you don't know me yet, my name is Kelsey Baez. I am the Nutrition Wellcats person. So I do a little bit of everything. I do these PAN classes that you're currently attending. There's going to be a seminar next Friday from noon to 1, and that is something that I will be hosting, and that is going to be discussing how to organize our nutrition. I've got some really great information in there, so if you've got some time, be watching Wellcats to be able to sign up for that seminar. But aside from that, today we are going to be making and how did I name it? The crispy Asian style crispy tofu bowl. And I love a good grain bowl. They are delicious to me. So this recipe itself, I haven't tried before, but I was like, oh my goodness, I've got to share this with my Wellcats family. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen to be able to show you the recipe. And then we'll talk about, I did some prep ahead of time because this is about, I would say, 40-minute to an hour long meal to cook normally. And as we're going throughout it, I can tell you some things that we can do to speed up the time and all that. But just so that we can dive in, let me share my screen. Okay. All right. So this is kind of broken up into 3 different parts. Overall nutrition for this meal is 481 calories and that's per serving, and there's 6 servings in what we're making today. It's a full serving of protein, 25 grams there. Carbohydrates are 52, fats are 21, which I will admit are a little bit higher on the side than what most like meals we have are. We try to keep them around 15-ish, but we're getting a lot of really great fats here. We're getting monounsaturated fats and different things that really just don't worry me as much as the fact that the content's a little high. And then we can always balance throughout the day. Like, this isn't the only meal we're going to be eating, so we can eat lower fat throughout the day. But anyway, so covered all of that. For anyone that's coming in a little bit late, I'm so happy you're here. Please put your net ID in the chat for me, please. The ingredients, so we have a tofu marinade, which I currently already have my tofu marinating because it has to marinate for at least 30 minutes. But it's 16 ounces of extra firm, or I would say even hard tofu would work. And that is marinating in a tablespoon of sesame oil, a tablespoon of lime, some rice vinegar, and some low sodium soy sauce. The bowl itself, we're going to use farro, but you could use quinoa or rice. I'm just a really big fan of farro, and I'm sure that I'm going to tell you all the reasons why, because I just get really excited about it. One of the big things about it is the fact that you're getting protein and fiber in there. We're going to be putting some Brussels sprouts in there because I feel like you can never go wrong with that. Sweet potatoes, edamame, which is part of that protein source that we saw earlier. Carrots, scallions, onions, just to make this a fun, fresh, and inviting bowl. And then the dressing I already have mixed up, and let me tell you, I tried some, and I would recommend doubling this so that you can use it throughout the week and other things. This dressing is amazing. It's so good. So for the dressing, I'm going to show you, because I've never used miso before. I've had miso before, but I've never made it. But this is what I found available on at HEB. That's where I do the shopping. So it was just a tablespoon, 2 teaspoons of it. This is the rice vinegar that we are using for today. It is sodium free. Soy sauce, low sodium soy sauce. This is the one I'm using. And here is the sesame oil. So these are what we're using throughout the entire meal, but that specifically is what we put into that dressing. And then of course, some honey and some lime juice. If you want to make this a vegan recipe, the only thing you have to do is switch out the honey for maple syrup. So there's that. The tofu, this is our tofu. I'm going to show you, I have it marinating in the bag. That way that the juice is distributed evenly among it. This is what the packaging looked like whenever I bought it. I couldn't get extra firm, but I did get hard tofu. I'm going to go ahead and put this on a little sheet pan. And then I'm going to throw it in the oven because it's got to cook for 20 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and get this going because I want to make sure that we get to have fully cooked, delicious tofu. I'm just going to shake it around a bit here to make sure it's all even. And I'll talk to you about how I cut this up and how I handled it. I just want to throw it in the oven real quick. Okay. And that is at 425 degrees Fahrenheit. I have a double oven, so I've got 425 degrees on the top where the tofu is. And then I have the bottom half of my oven at 400 degrees, which is where we're going to be roasting our vegetables. If you don't have two ovens, that's totally fine. You can pan fry your vegetables and have everything done at the same time, or you can prep ahead of time too. So you could already have had your potatoes, like let's say you made potatoes and you ate it twice throughout the week. These could be leftover potatoes because you made excess prior to this meal. So let's see, what else are we wanting to do? We've already got that. Got the tofu going in there. So I do want to tell you about the tofu. The tofu itself, it comes, and this is the container, right? I already showed it to you, but this is how wide it is. And it comes in liquid, so it's very wet. So it gets difficult on how to make tofu crispy. So what I did, and this is my first time doing this technique, I have referenced I just realized I'm still sharing the recipe. I'm so sorry. There we go. That's probably easier. So crispy tofu. First time doing it. So I will let you know my traditional way of how I make crispy tofu, and I'll tell you what I did. I'm going to start off with what I did. So this is pretty wide, right? I always cut it in half, and then I take paper towels and I just squish it and I get the juice out of it, right? So then what I did this time, which was new and I super loved the concept of it, is that after I squished it, I rolled it in paper towels. I put it on my cutting board, and then I have another cutting board that's thick and heavy, and I just set it on top of there. And I let it sit for about 30 minutes. Apparently you can do this overnight too. And then that's going to press out all that liquid. I was pretty impressed by the time it was done. It was pretty dry. So I think that our tofu is going to come out really crispy and delicious. What I've done in the past is that I roll it in corn flour. Corn flour rolled in a super pressed, in a press, like I hand press it. Then roll it in corn flour with some seasoning, and then I will like pan fry it in a little bit of olive oil. That's really delicious too, and it doesn't take long. So I don't think this oven process is going to take long either. But just so you know, I know tofu can be a new uncharted territory for a lot of people. So I just wanted to tell you 2 different ways to go about that. I do recommend using corn flour and not flour because it's going to be crispier. So that's my little blurb on that. We need to get the farro started. I'm going to show you. This is the farro I'm using. Every farro is going to have a little bit different packaging. This is a ready in 10-minute one, which I think is delicious. So I have water boiling, and we're going to go ahead and dump this over there. Dump it in the pot. If you've cooked with me before, you know that I have to always do this transition from like chopping and then going over to my kitchen. So you see me step out of frame a couple of times, and I'm sorry about that. It's just my layout. Okay. So we've got that going, and next what we need to do, so far in the oven, we have chopped sweet potatoes. I started those a little early. And we have the tofu, and we're gonna put our shaved Brussels sprouts in. If you cannot access shaved Brussels sprouts, you can make them very easy. You can hand grate them. You can put them in a food processor, which is my preferred way, and then it just all does itself. And then if none of that works for you, you can always quarter them, and then you just take a whole, after you wash them, you just cut them. So no wrong way with Brussels sprouts. And then it's a tablespoon of this, and it comes out very thin, so I'm just, okay, going to put some on here. And I have a spoon here. I'm gonna just mix this up. And then this is going in the oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit as well. I've never cooked vegetables in sesame oil, so I am intrigued to see what this is gonna taste like. Definitely have used olive oil. I'm a big fan of olive oil, but being someone that's lived in Europe, that's like a given. Of course, that's, I mean, you buy it by like the 5-gallon over there. Okay, this has got them pretty wet, so I'm gonna go ahead and put them in the oven. All right, so let me look at something else to know if you haven't cooked with me before is that I love questions. So if at any time you want to know something, feel free to interrupt me. I like for this to be a really casual experience. If you don't have questions, fine, no big deal. So let's see, we've done the tofu. It's been in there for about 5 minutes. We'll toss it and flip it around in about another 5 minutes. The farro is cooking according to package instructions. We have our sweet potatoes and our Brussels sprouts in the oven. Brussels sprouts are going to take about 8 minutes to cook. The salad dressing we've already talked about. We need to cook our edamame. Okay. What brand of miso did I use? The brand of it is called Miso Easy. So this is a broth concentrate. I tried some straight up. It is good. It is salty. So it is definitely meant to be a broth. So you would dilute it, which is what we did with the dressing. But first time using it, and let me tell you, not my last. I enjoyed this. I'm really enjoying it. Let's go ahead. These are the edamame that we're using. I'm just using steamables, and we are going to cook them according to packaging, which that is saying microwave 3 to 4 minutes. Let's stand for a minute, open up package. So I'm going to go put that in. And that'll be a good timer to let us know whenever the microwave goes off. That's whenever we'll take the tofu out of the oven and flip it. And we're also going to toss our sweet potatoes. So I already got the sweet potatoes started, but I always like to show something with chopping here. So I actually already have a potato ready, and I'm going to show you how I chop a sweet potato. I've already peeled it, and something that you may or may not know is that potatoes and starchy, dense vegetables in general, you can prep ahead of time and put a bowl of water, and they can stay in your refrigerator for about 5 days. So if you look, this is simply, and this is what I did with the diced. So I diced the sweet potatoes that are cooking right now. It's just water. This size of sweet potato is about what is in the oven right now, because it equals about 2 cups. I'm going to dry this off so that my hands don't slip, around on it. And we'll get to chopping. Something that I will tell you that I just found out a lot of people don't know, but whenever we are peeling our produce, you can actually go front and back on it. It doesn't have to be long strokes. It actually took me a while to learn that. And I watched my sister like angrily doing carrots one day, and I was like, wow, that's cool to know. So anyway, you don't have to do one stroke. You can do back and forth. Honestly, as long as you're getting it done, there's not really a wrong way to chop a sweet potato, or any potatoes for that matter. My mother-in-law likes to dice them this way, or cut slices this way. I just think it takes too long, so I don't care for it that way. I cut even lengths this way, and then I'll show you what I'm doing. So I'm gonna cut here. Always keep your hand on the opposite side of the knife. Or the blade, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And now if you look, so 4 worked for me, and I kept them all about the even thickness. When it comes to cooking, we really just want to try and have everything be an even cookness or even thickness, because it's going to cook more even. And then something for me is, one, the combination that I have a toddler, so smaller chopped foods is a benefit there. But the other thing is the smaller that you cut something, the faster it's going to cook. So this is how I dice up a potato. They're all roughly the same size, roughly the same thickness. And then this is gonna go right back in the water, because I'm actually gonna have sweet potatoes on Saturday, part of my meal plan. So this works out great. So again, I'm cutting it lengthwise. This is also how you would make sweet potato fries. So you would just, if you wanted to make sweet potato fries, you'd cut them in this fashion. And then you would roll them in a little bit of olive oil, maybe a little bit of salt, put them in the oven for like 425, 475 for about 20 minutes. Boom, sweet potato fries. I got a question in one of my previous cooking classes that I really loved, because I never would have like stopped to think about it before. But the question was, why did I use the knife that I used? So this knife, the reason why I use it is because I'm doing a lot of chopping. I'm going directly down, and I don't have to drag my knife. If I was going to drag my knife, I would use this chef knife, because it's got that bow to it. And then I use the size because honestly, the bigger, the better. The more surface area you have, I like it. That was something that I learned, like whenever I used to cook for only myself, I used to only use like the littlest thing so that I didn't have to clean as much. And now I've just learned that no matter what, I'm cleaning, so I might as well just make it easier for the cooking process. So everyone has their like favorite knife, their favorite burner, their favorite way that they like to cook. This for me, the bigger the knife, the better. All right. So sweet potatoes, I've shown you how we cooked them. This is how to store herbs. This is our cilantro, and this is the bag that you buy it in at HEB. So I just cut off the bottom of it, and then I put it over the top of it, created an umbrella, and then the bottom of here is just simply water. And then I store it on the top of my refrigerator, and this will actually last me like 2 weeks. If I don't do this process, it usually only lasts me like, honestly, a couple days. It depends on how fresh the cilantro was cut. But anyway, I definitely recommend trying this trick. I need to just get an herb garden, if I'm being honest with you. This is going to be a garnish for us. So let me peel this. And then I think what I'm going to do is we're going to do the jump, and we're going to move over to the stove. And then I'll show you how I chop everything over there. But I try to not jump out of frame a lot. But we just do what we can in these virtual realities we're living in right now. Okay, we can always do more cilantro. This is probably about 5-6 stalks. I'm just taking the leaves off. You actually can chop the whole stick and it'd be fine. When I make picos, I usually put the whole stalk in there. But because I want this to, I don't want the crunch from the stalk. That's why I'm taking the leaves off, because I just want it simply to give me that cilantro taste. All right, let's do our move. Let's hop, jump, and skip over to the stove. Okay. way we can see what's going on with the different things going on in our oven. Here. My microwave really wants me to get that edamame out. Just gonna set it in the back burner and let it cool there. And I need an oven. I see a question. Can you say again what size to cut up the tofu and how to get the liquid out? Yes, absolutely. Let's do some flipping and I'll talk to you about the tofu as I'm flipping the tofu. Let me put a little heat barrier here. So this is about 10 minutes with the sweet potatoes. I have them probably about quarter inch cubes. And we're just gonna flip this around. I think whenever I first started cooking, whenever I saw the word flip, I thought that meant like individually take each piece. And who has time for that? I know I don't. So anyway, this works out great. You can do this thing, like any flipping, tossing, that's what you can do and everything comes out just fine. Our Brussels sprouts are looking crunchy. This is about 10 minutes, maybe a little bit more for the tofu. This is roughly about the size. It's not too bad, so I'll show you. That's, I would say, about like the size of my thumb here. So cubed pieces. And then whenever it comes to how I prepared it. So whenever you get the tofu, I would say it's about, a whole hand width thick. I slice that in half. And then whenever I slice that in half, I take a paper towels and I squeeze, I just press it. I press it together. And that is how I get the initial liquid out. And then for this process, what I did was I wrapped it after I did what I just explained. I wrapped it and I wrapped it in a paper towel, and then I put a heavy surface on top of it. So it was a cutting board for me. And that sat for about 30 minutes and pushed out all the excess water into the paper towel. So 30 minutes after that, and then it was ready for the marinade. I just sliced it, like honestly, the same way that you just saw me cut up the sweet potato is the approach that I did for the tofu. So I cut it lengthwise and then I cross hatched it. So if I remember correctly, from the package, I had already cut it in half, pressed it, and then from there, each one I sliced into 4s lengthwise, and then probably about 6s this way. So I created like a grid pattern. The farro was missing a lot of water. I could smell it burning on the bottom, and it was not cooked because whenever I was tossing it, it felt very dense. Whenever we're cooking our farro, it's going to feel light and fluffy. And I put the top on top of it because it's going to keep that steam in there and really help keep it rich and keep it fluffy. So did I answer the tofu question adequately, or should I go further?
No, you did. I just couldn't remember the 30 minutes. I was like, I knew there was something to do with the pressing it down. I just couldn't remember how long you did it for.
So I did it I did it this morning, first thing this morning. And I would say that in total, I probably had it setting for like 45 minutes.
Okay.
The instructions that I have, or the website that I have linked at the very bottom of the recipe, which is where I got this recipe from, they said only 30 minutes, or you could do as much as leaving it overnight in the fridge with that pressing. So I think it's just the fact that you have a minimum of 30 minutes.
Right.
So there's that. Farro is still cooking. Brussels sprouts not ready. They said 8 minutes. That's not true. But it's okay because we still have time and we need to chop other things. So let's see here. Let me show you how I approach How I approach my herbs is the same way that I approach cutting like lettuce. And that is that I'm going to bunch it all together. It's hard to tell from this angle. Maybe I can do that. It's not any better. Okay, so I'm just gonna go through and I'm gonna cut it lengthwise. And again, I'm gonna create a grid. Let me get rid of these sweet potatoes because I don't want raw sweet potato in my bowl. Okay, so I did lengthwise, right? And then I'm just gonna go through and I'm gonna do the same thing, but in the opposite direction. Then I'm just gonna take my knife and I'm gonna toss it around. And then I'm gonna do the same thing again. Always keeping my hand opposite of the blade and in this position so that if I get my knife too close to me, it's not gonna take a finger off because I've got my knuckles protecting me. So there's that. Sometimes I do it flat and put it on top of here. Really just depends on whatever stability I'm feeling. And then I keep doing that until it's a size that I want it to. And I find that the more that you cut it, the more aromatic it is. I know that there's a super sciencey reason for that, and I can't really remember what it is. I know that it has to do with you breaking the membrane and oxygen like accessing it. So anyway, it has something in that realm. But this is a pretty good amount for the fact that it's just going to be myself and my husband eating this lunch today. So, and it's just a garnish. We're going to do some scallions. So that's these right here. You can, the recipe called to leave these raw, but you could also put them in a little pan with a little bit of oil or something and just toast them up if you don't want them raw, which is absolutely fine. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off these little ends right here, which you can actually put in a pot of in a little bit of water, and then they will sprout up and grow anew if you want to do that. So I think it's called I can't remember the word for it. But anyway, you don't have to waste it. You can use it again. And again, I'm using my fingers this way and I'm dragging my knife. So this chop knife, it's doing the job, but if I had that one that had the bow angle on it, I could be doing bigger slices and moving faster. But this is doing the job and I'm not doing a lot of chopping, so no need to switch knives. And again, this is a garnish. You may find these in the aisle as green onions, same thing. And also tofu, the tofu, you're gonna find that in the vegetable aisle as well. It's usually on the border of the vegetable aisle where you see like cold produce, like some cold salad dressings. That's usually where you can find tofu. And I found that if you don't know where it is, you might have to ask a few employees because sometimes they don't know where it is either, unless it's their department specifically. All right, I've got the green onions chopped. I'm not going to do any more because again, I'm making this for 2 people. I actually have 2 bunches. So if you had 6, if you were making this for a full 6 people, then 2 bunches would be absolutely adequate. Okay. Let's check on some food and then I would like to answer any questions. And if there's no questions, I'm just going to get really nerdy and talk about nutritional benefits of all the different foods. So let's see what's going on with our farro. All right, our farro is looking good. It might actually, yeah. So I'm moving it around and one, it's sticking to my spatula. So that's one indication that it's ready. That's also an indication that your pasta is ready. Whenever your pasta is like sticking to your spatula and sticking to itself, pasta is ready. Same with this starchy grain here. And a little tip, always make extra farro. It is a great breakfast food. So I almost always will double the amount of farro I make, and then I make it just like I make oatmeal. But you're getting more fiber, you're getting more protein, and it's a different texture altogether. So it's just fun. It's just different. So I definitely recommend that. Something that I like to do is like put some frozen berries in with it. Sometimes I'll do cream, sometimes I won't. Maybe a little bit of brown sugar. I usually do a peanut butter or some sort of nut butter to enhance the fat content and the protein there. And it's just, oh, it's so good. I love farro for breakfast. So lots of benefits there, and that's because it's so versatile and it's going to keep in your refrigerator, and you can use it in different things and you can spice it up however you want, and it really just like carry you throughout the week and you not realize that you're eating the same thing every day because it's so versatile. Let's check on those Brussels sprouts. Those Brussels sprouts I'm curious about. I usually pan fry my Brussels sprouts, but I really wanted to give this a go. They're looking good. So let's see. You see here, they're starting to brown up. I might call them done. I'm gonna actually get a fork and I'm gonna stab one and I'm gonna see how that responds. I want it to be a little crispy, and that does seem to be what's going on here. So I'm gonna call them done. And I would say that it actually took about 10, 15 minutes, not 8 like that recipe said. But these look good, they look inviting, they smell great. If you've cooked with me before, you know I think that everything needs garlic, and I didn't put garlic in here, but I would love some garlic powder on this. That's just, it's just my palate, that's what I like. Let's set this over here. Let's check on the sweet potatoes next. According to the recipe time frame, they should be ready. So let's see. They look ready. So I wanted them to be a little bit more brown, but they look like they're thoroughly cooked. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my fork and I'm just gonna stab it. That picked it up, no problem. So in my world, these are done. If I wanted them a little bit more brown, if I wanted them more crispy, I wouldn't say this is crispy. I think that pan frying them would be better. So you wouldn't change anything except for the fact you wouldn't put it in the oven. But I really love using an oven because you can just throw stuff and go and walk away, right? There are definitely benefits there. Let me turn off this oven because that farro we're saying is done. Lastly, we have our tofu. Tofu looks great. The tofu does look crispy. We're gonna stab that. I'm gonna see how it responds. Looks good. Looks good. You can definitely see the marinade in here and how it cooked off. So it smells good. It smells a little sweet actually. Like I get a little bit of sweet and I get a little bit of salty from that flavor that I'm getting here. So let's go ahead and we're gonna just throw everything in a bowl is what we're gonna do. So let me grab a bowl. I hope I'm not making you sick with the up and down, up and down. Let's see. Just making sure I'm not missing any questions. Doesn't look like I am, which is great. All right. Cute little bowls I got from Costco. Love them. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna put the farro on first. So this package, well, long story short, if it's gonna be 6, you're gonna do about a quarter cup to half a cup of the grain, which is, so a cup is the size of your fist. So a quarter cup is more or less like the size of your, 3 ounces, about the size of your palm, or you could think about it like this and it would fit what would fit here. Or of course you can get a container or a measuring cup. You can't see what I'm doing. Hold on. Let's shift over here. Bowl right there. There we go. It's no fun if I'm not sharing what's going on. Okay. So I'm going to say that hearty little serving there is about a quarter cup. This is going to be a very filling meal because you're getting the fats and you're getting the protein. So it's very balanced out. And you might be surprised that, like, that may not have looked like a lot, but you might be surprised at how full you feel. Farro is also one of those things because of the fiber that you just kind of feel like as you're at like 10 minutes after you get done eating it, you're just more, you're more full than you thought you were because it expands. So I'm gonna go ahead and just do a nice little scoop of the Brussels sprouts here. They look delicious. We'll go ahead and do our tofu. Just did about a serving size is about 3 ounces, which again is about the size of your palm. And sweet potato. Just do like a little scoop of that. Everything kind of shrunk as I cooked it, so not sure what's going on there. Now this sauce, this very delicious sauce. I would say that the only thing that I would change about the sauce is that I would try doing, so it's 2 tablespoons of sesame oil is what the recipe says. I would put 1 tablespoon in, try it, see how you like it, and then maybe do like a half a tablespoon more. For me, that's probably what I'll do, but yeah. So I'm gonna do, this is about a tablespoon. I'm gonna mix it in. I'm gonna do a little bit more because I know I really like this sauce. I know, I'm being very clear about that. Something that I thought of, the sweet potatoes or the carrots, you could cook these as well. Maybe toss them in a little bit of ginger. That'd give you an additional flavor that'd be really good. I'm just gonna put that in here. All right, we're gonna do some cilantro. And we're gonna do a little bit of these scallion, green onions, whatever you wanna call it. There's our bowl. I think that looks great. I don't know about you. I love all the different colors. I like that we're getting the browns, the greens, the oranges, because each one of those colors are different components of nutrition, basically. Let me get a fork here. The recipe itself is pretty much done early. That might be because I started so early or started prepping. But I'll stay on and answer questions and talk nutrition the whole time. You can tell that I'm hot, sorry. Let me move from over the oven because it is hot. Okay, I'm gonna try and get a bite of everything. Having a hard time getting a Brussels sprout. There we go. This is really good. I don't like that the carrots are raw.
They're cold compared to everything else.
They're too bold compared to it.
Yeah.
Maybe I would like it if I pan fried the sweet potatoes. So if I were you, and you can try it this way, there's nothing wrong with it. It is good. But I would either toss the carrots with the sweet potatoes and put them in the oven so they're the same consistency because they have the different flavors and the flavors work together. But that carrot really stands out. So I'm gonna do a bite without carrot and tell you what I think there. And get a tofu.
Well, and I like to sometimes turn my broil on at the very end of the sweet potatoes and get a little bit crispier, you know.
That's a great suggestion. I
Because
would
I have a top oven and a bottom oven too, and so I do the top one for any type of potatoes, and then at the very end, I'll turn it on high broil or low broil, and then you get a little bit crispier. Sometimes burn them, but that's okay.
Yeah,
They're good like that too.
I'm like that too. I would forget about the broil option, so thank you for telling me about that. Now I'm going to be on like a 3-week binge of broiling everything. I forgot to put the edamame in, y'all.
Oh yeah.
I know, and that's one of our protein sources. So I'm going to go ahead and throw that in here. I wonder if that's going to mellow out the carrot.
Yeah.
Let me get a carrot in here so I can tell you what I think with that. It mellowed out the carrot, but I'd still cook it.
Oh.
I would still cook it, but it's a more, don't forget the edamame, because that really changes the texture. It gives you a little bit more boing to it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is really good. You got to try it. But I did want to talk to you guys a little bit. So at the beginning of all this, I told you that it's going to take about 40 minutes to an hour to cook, which automatically in my mind's like, okay, this is a weekend meal, not a weekday meal. But there are some things that we can do so that we can actually make it a weekday meal. So one thing I said that I showed you was how we can store our sweet potatoes. So you might be able to prepare that on like a Sunday or whatever day works for you by chopping and dicing and peeling those and then setting them in water. That's already done. You could also just buy frozen sweet potatoes. That is not a problem. It's going to have just as much nutritional value. And then you can just throw them in a pan and then go. And you're probably going to cut your costs too if you use a frozen sweet potato. The tofu you can make ahead of time. The reheating process of it is a little bit different. I would actually suggest if you're going to reheat tofu, and I would do it in the microwave, and I would put a little cup of water with it, because otherwise it gets too hard and it gets weird, basically. So and it doesn't take long because it's so porous that you're going to be able to cook it rather quickly in the microwave. So you could do the tofu, and then you have tofu twice a week. The edamame you saw, I used a microwave version of it. And then again, whenever you have everything already prepped like that, you get to throw it in the oven and basically forget about it. The farro, I already told you, you can use that multiple times throughout the week. So maybe have that prepped already. And then all you have to do is really throw everything in a bowl and make the dressing if you don't have it. If you want a thicker dressing, you could even throw in like a tablespoon of a nut butter and mix that in there, and that'd be really good too. I love a dressing with like, I do almond butter a lot, and I'll put like some soy sauce, some sriracha, and a little bit of water. That's all I do, mix it up together, and that's a great topping on here as well. And then as far as the cost components, I bought everything for this meal, and that is including like the soy sauce, the rice vinegar, everything, right? And it cost me about $30 to buy everything. When you divide that up amongst six, that's what, roughly $5 a meal, which isn't bad. But you got to remember that I bought everything fresh so that I could show you how to chop stuff. Whenever you start throwing in things like the frozen sweet potatoes, and the fact that you're not going to buy soy sauce every single time, you're not going to buy the miso paste every single time. It's not necessarily going to be an upfront cost every time with the meal. And then of course I bought everything at HEB, but if you have access to like Trader Joe's or like an Aldi, those are great sources where you can find even cheaper stuff. It's just I've got to hike to go to those places, so it doesn't happen. Let's see. Are there any questions? Well, then I'm going to actually use the rest of this time to talk about why tofu is great. I love Trader Joe's. Also, Costco sells a giant container of soy sauce. I didn't know that, but I basically live at Costco. I love Costco, and I have a vacuum sealer. So I buy everything and then vacuum seal it, and then I use it for like a month. I like cut my own meats and all sorts of stuff. So thanks for that tidbit. Something else is that you can tell as a nation that there is not as much comfort in cooking with soy. And the reason why I'm saying that so confidently is because whenever this pandemic happened, all the meats, all the toilet paper, everything was off the shelf. But you know what I could find with no problem? Soy, tofu. So my family, we ate a lot of tofu. And with eating a lot of tofu, there is this stigma out there. I don't know if you've heard about it, but I'm basically going to just talk about it anyhow. Is that there's this belief that tofu affects testosterone and estrogen levels. I don't know if anyone's heard about this before, but I certainly have. And there are lots of men that avoid tofu and in general because of this. So a little bit of knowledge about it is that the reason why people say that is because there are some molecules within soy tofu itself that look like estrogen, but they don't act that way in our body. So it's an inaccurate assumption to say that something looks like something and it's going to mess with your hormone levels. Science has really done a great job of investigating this and has proven that it's not true. There's also been allegations. I don't know. There's been accusations that that soy is linked to breast cancer in women, but actually, if you do a literature dive into the research, it might actually be preventative. So that's not true also. So I want to make sure that you can feel comfortable with eating tofu. And one other thing that I just like to think like on a logical level, whenever it comes to like soy, excuse me, my spit went down the wrong pipe. So whenever we hear soy, and even like with this dish, it's traditionally known as an Asian staple food. And what we know about Asians just in general is that they're roughly half of the world population. China alone has the largest world population with like 15 billion people. And America has roughly, I think it's like 35 million people. So if your testosterone levels were affected, would you be able to be the largest population in the world? Like, I mean, for sex hormones, that it's just not a logical jump. So even if you don't want to dive into literature, just think about that aspect of it and how would that make sense to make an accusation like that it would affect those hormone levels. So that's my soapbox. I'm going to step off of that now. Try soy, it's good. And yeah, you just let me know what else you would like to know. We have about 10 minutes before the class is over. I will hang out. I can talk about sweet potatoes. I can talk about Brussels sprouts. You let me know. We can end.
I don't know if you see in there, I added the that autumnal farro salad that I think I've mentioned before that has the farro, sweet potatoes,
Yes,
carrots. It's so good. It's just
thank
the
you.
combinations are just so good.
I didn't see that, but thank you so much.
Yeah.
And something else that I don't know if you guys know is that we actually have a Nutrition Wildcats Canvas page. If you have access to Wildcats, we have, I mean, not Wildcats. If you have access to Canvas, just shoot me an email and I should be able to add you on there. I've never done it before, but I will certainly figure it out for you. My email, I'll put it in the chat just so that you have it there. But my email is kdb181 @Texas State. And on there, I link the videos if you want to cook with me later, that are all on YouTube, and the recipes. Obviously, it's just a little forum for everybody. The salad looks amazing. Thank you, Patty, and thank you, Julie.
So I make it like a couple times a month. I just love it. It's warm and it's just so good.
Yeah.
It has fig dressing, a fig dressing. Oh.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right. You know what? Just so that people know, I'm just going to go ahead and just put it up on our. Oh, I got to download it. Hold on.
It was, I guess, Jessica? No.
Jasmine.
Jasmine. Yes. Yes. I think it was Jasmine, or yeah, it was Jasmine. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it. Excuse me.
Good stuff. All right. Well, thank you so much, Kelsey. I'm going to hop off as well.
Absolutely. No problem at all. I'm so happy that you all were here, and let me know how you like it if you try this recipe.
I will.
Thank you.
It sounds good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.